and such. Every spring, and these days they reenact this ceremony. Next spring you can come see it if you wish. The king would parade out of Gyeongbok Palace down there, or later Changdok Palace, come down this big street, big royal parade, come in through that gate, as we just did, come up here, enter this shrine. There'd be big tables set up on those earth altars, those earthen dirt altars there. Big table set up with offerings of meat and fruit and wine and vegetables and every possible thing and such. And they do a formal ceremony of offering the wine 3 times, like you're going to see later today for Dangun up there, and for the earth and for grain, and the king himself. And they would set up on this grassy part right here in front, they would set up an ox, a big beautiful ox with a harness on it and a plow, and the king himself would plow 1 furrow through the land, and that would be the signal for every farmer in the nation to start plowing then and begin the year of agriculture. Although actually way down south by the south coast they would actually start earlier than that because of the weather, but symbolically. Now take note here, the king of Korea worshipped the spirit of earth and also grain, not heaven. Now there's the Trinity, heaven, earth, humanity, but the king of Korea did not worship heaven. The emperor of China did. There is the very famous, in Beijing, the Temple of Heaven, as well as an altar for earth and an altar for grain there in Beijing. Big marble altars. In this case, the Koreans are much more humble, as always, with huge marble, beautiful, and the Temple of Heaven, one of those beautiful oriental buildings in the world. Emperor worship heaven. Do you understand the difference here? Because he's emperor. He's the son of heaven, called the son of heaven, and he can worship heaven. Korean king was a king. You understand the difference? Emperor means king of the kings. The king of all kings. It's like Augustus Caesar, and there was king of Judea, king of Spain, king of Egypt, Morocco, every different kings under him. Same thing in the Western system. Chinese started that system even before the Europeans and maybe the Iranians. Iran was the first of that system of an emperor, Darius, and such, 500 BC. Okay, so Korea's always been in this situation. Korea has never pretended to be an emperor, has always been happy to be a king and recognizing the Chinese emperor, but not becoming part of China. The whole theme of Korean history is refusing to become part of China, although loving Chinese culture, importing everything from China, using it, Koreanizing it, making themselves very Chinese cultural style, but just with a Korean twist on everything. They love China, respect China. China's the older brother. No problem this has been for 2,000 years, but they refuse to be part of China, and 3 different times they have fought like hell to not become just one province of the Chinese Empire, the same way that the Vietnamese spent 2,000 years fighting to keep their independence. Many, many other people failed in that, including Tibetans, of course, as you know, the Mongolians, and etc., failed and are part of the Chinese Empire today, just part of the nation of China. Koreans refused, and they fought, and such. Now, always remember in all this that the Koreans came down from Siberia. They're moving south as horseback riding barbarians. The Chinese are people who came north. Chinese came up north from Southeast Asia. They kept moving north and occupied that area called China. So totally different in origin, nothing in common at all as human species. The languages, totally different and opposite. They met together, the Koreans coming south, the Chinese coming north. That's what's called the Great Wall of China. That's where they met. And the Chinese were really afraid of them and really bothered by them. They were horseback riding pirates, raiding and stealing from agricultural societies. And the Chinese had to build this gigantic wall to keep the ancestors. You can't even call them Koreans, but the ancestors of what later became the Koreans, say 700 years later. But they had to build that giant wall. That's why that's there. Okay, so you understand the relationship. Then China's, since 200 BC, China's had an emperor. Korea always was pretty content to be, okay, we're a king. We got a king, and we're a kingdom. We bow to the emperor. We send gifts, but leave us alone. We are independent country. And China tried 2 times in the 600s to take this over and make it part of China, but they failed. The Koreans fought too hard. And ever since 700 AD, it's been a peaceful relationship. The Chinese never tried again after 700 AD until 1950. And you heard about that, and you know what that's about. 1950, at Christmas time, China made its 4th attempt to take over Korea, and they only got halfway. And we got the situation that we have today. Okay, that's the relation between 700 to 1950. Peaceful relationship, older brother, younger brother, both sides recognizing, acknowledging, and they're cool. The country that wasn't cool with this, as you may know, our good friend and neighbor to the east, Japan, the Japanese islands. Since 600 AD, they said they have an emperor. And the Chinese and Koreans both said, oh, no, you don't. You can't say that. There's only one emperor in any part of the world, just like in Rome or whatever. There's one. Emperors are one of a kind in any region of the world. Japan, since 600 AD, started calling themselves having an emperor. What they meant was just emperor of the Japanese islands, as each different island and parts of islands were considered as kingdoms, and one guy conquering in central Honshu and calling himself emperor. He meant emperor of the Japanese islands, but the Chinese are saying don't use that word, and the Japanese kept using it, and the Chinese never had a navy. Never had an ocean-going navy that could go over there and settle the problem and punish them for that. But all through, for 1,300 years, Koreans siding with the Chinese, and Koreans and Chinese together saying, no, you're not an emperor. Stop using that word. You're a king. You're the king of Japan. Give it up. And they don't, and still today, Japan claims to have an emperor. Still today, this guy has no power, he has no significance, but they keep using that word, and it's really annoying to China and Korea just to use that word. They would really like him to be the king of Japan, or just get rid of it completely as Korea has done. It's just symbolic, but it's really irritating. Imagine if Angela Merkel started calling herself Empress, what the other Europeans, it may be in fact true, it's really fact, sort of, at least for a while, another year, but if she started saying that, how the French would feel. It's irritating. It's annoying. Anyway, that's the history behind all this and the significance. Now, just to code that up, in 1897, Korea finally did declare itself an empire. And King Kojong in Korea, 1897, declared independence from China because China was collapsing and totally failing, and said that Korea is an empire, the Daehan Empire. They had that for 13 years, and they built a Temple of Heaven on the central hill of Seoul, which is right by the Westin Chosun Hotel next to the Lotte Hotel downtown. There is the wooden Temple of Heaven, built in 1897. 13 years. It was always kind of a joke. There was never really an emperor, but they had that title. Foreign diplomats used to laugh about it. It was kind of sad, but they said so. And then Japan took it over. And okay, that's that. Now let's move around to the other side. Quick chance for a bathroom break if you need that, and then more lecture.